Hi guys. I didn't tell y'all I was dialing in live today, but I am live today, and I think I'm actually going to make Thursdays my live video days. So, how y'all doing? How is everybody doing today? I hope everyone had a great Valentine's Day yesterday, and I hope you treated that somebody special really well in your life. Hi, Makeup by Stell. How are you? So, thank y'all so much, everyone who participated in my poll today. I thought about coming up with my own what's the word I'm looking for? Something that's not been used before, obviously, because you have the Wedding Wisdom Wednesdays, you have Fix It Fridays, you have different days of the week. You have some planners have come up with different names for their feeds. So I think I mentioned last week when I joined in life that I really want to start an education for potential couples, because I feel like education is lacking in the event industry out there, and a lot of couples are very confused. They're reading different things on the internet, inaccurate information has been provided, and I just really feel like a lot of couples go into planning without having a realistic expectation of what to expect for their wedding. So I want to use my platform to start giving out a lot of education to potential couples out there. So for those of you who have been following and joining, I put a poll on today saying that I had different options. I think I had like Thursday therapy, I had like wedding Thursday therapy wedding, and then I had TOJ therapy Thursdays, TOJ wedding therapy Thursdays, and I think so far right now what's leading is TOJ wedding Thursday therapy. That's what's leading. So I think we might stick to that. So TOJ wedding Thursday therapy. How y'all like that? So every Thursdays I'm gonna try to log on every Thursdays between 4:30 and 5, but I'll always give an update before I log in to make sure that if I would not be able to dial in, I'll give you guys an update and let you know. But that's the plan for right now. So y'all keep me honest, okay? If you bombard me in my inboxes and just say, hey Joe, don't forget to dial in, don't worry, I'll make it a date for you guys. But I hope everybody is doing well. It's been a busy day for me, so I actually didn't think I was going to be able to make it. I got to jump in and jump out real quick to go pick up the kiddos in about an hour. So what I want to talk about today is a venue. Hi, Cootie. How are you? So I have a few of my clients on the phone. On live here with me. So let me say hi to everybody real quick. Hi, Makeup by Stell. How are you? Where are you located? Makeup by Stell. Where are you located? Let me know. Hi, Mr. Malek Photo Weddings. I am expecting some Iceland goodies on your way back. Hi, Slick J Makeover. Hey, Miss Shasta. How are you? I hope y'all can see me okay, because the light in here is a little bit dull. Hey, Miss Casey Events. Good to see you. It's been a minute. Hi, Prince. How are you doing? So, yeah. So, again, I'm going to be logging in every Thursday doing my TOJ Wedding Thursday therapy. So, I hope y'all are excited as I am. And I have I have some tricks up my sleeve that y'all will be seeing. So, stay tuned. But today's video is not going to be super long. I'm probably going to be here for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes at the max. But I want to talk about finding the perfect venue today. And so I started the series last week talking about vendors you need for your wedding. And so I went down a list of all the vendors that you need to hire for your wedding. And I said that in upcoming weeks, I'm going to be dissecting each vendor and kind of just going more in depth. And I have some surprises because I'm going to be having some co-hosts join me on the conversation. So next week, I'm not going to say it yet, but I do have one of my favorite hotels ever. Their sales and catering director will actually be joining me live and giving you guys some insights about what to know when booking a hotel, and just kind of talking about the breakdown of, what's required when booking your event at a hotel. So anyways, today I am going to be talking about venues. So finding the perfect venue, right? I tell my couples, whenever I get couples who have not booked their venue before booking a planner, I actually always tell them that the most important part of hiring a planner is the planner can help you find the perfect venue for you. A lot of people go into book venues and they don't know what questions to ask. They don't know if they're getting the best deal. They literally book with their feelings and they book with their side. So they go in to see a venue, they love the venue. In their mind, it fits their overall style, their overall vision, their overall theme, and they feel like, yes, this is the venue. But it's not just about that though. Like, it's great that this is the venue you've been dreaming about getting married at, but is it the right fit for your guest count? Is it the right fit for your style? Is it the right fit for your budget? Is it the right fit for, your parents, your family? So those are things that you really have to consider, and not just really just saying, oh, this is a beautiful venue. Let's go ahead and put on a deposit. So today I'm going to be talking about finding the right venue and, what to know, questions to ask when you go around and start searching for a venue. And then next week, we're going to go even deeper into, what a venue requires. So, kind of really going to go down into breaking down the food and beverage minimums. A lot of people hear food and beverage minimums. What the heck is that? Where you said I have to meet how much? And so we're going to really dive in depth into that next week. So first of all, there are different types of venues, right? So you as a bride, I'm sure for the most part, a lot of my brides, they already kind of know the style of wedding they want. They know if they want a vintage wedding. They know if they want, a modern wedding. They know if they want a classic wedding. They know if they want, old glamour wedding, if they want a beach wedding. You for the most part have a style of what type of wedding you want to do, right? And based on that, you will start researching venues that fits into the style you're looking for. So for example, if your theme is like a rustic glam, you want to find venues that really look vintage, look old school, that you can also kind of transform and add a little bit of glam to it, right? You probably don't want to go rent out a hotel ballroom if you're going to be having a rustic wedding. Can you transform a hotel ballroom into a rustic glam look? You probably can, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. So the number one thing you want to do when finding out your venue is picking out a venue that for the most part will fit in with the style of wedding that you're trying to have. That way you don't have to spend a lot of money on decor. But if your budget allows for you to transform your room and spend the money on decor, then by all means you can go ahead and book whatever venue you want to book. So that's number one thing, figuring out what your style is, figuring out, what type of event, what type of wedding do you want to have, what type of bride are you, right? And then figuring that out, all right? So a lot of, the rustic weddings, they have venues. Their venues have like a barn. A lot of it is like, really, hardwood, very fine wood, handmade, it's different. You're not walking into a venue with like glistening chandeliers all over the ceiling. That's not what you're walking into when you're planning a rustic wedding. So that's one. So again, know the style of wedding you want to have, and then start looking into venues that match that style. So that's number one. Number two, of course, is your location. So, and just for the sake of reference, I'm going to use Dallas, for instance. So, for those of you who live in Dallas is a pretty big city. You could drive over an hour and you're still driving within Dallas. If I live an hour away, do I really want to go finding a venue that's an hour and a half away? Or do I want to find a venue that's closer to me, right? Just for convenience reasons. You have to decide if that's important to you. I would tell you that there are tons of venues that are going to be outskirts of Dallas. It's going to probably take you about an hour or good over an hour drive. But you're probably going to save money getting those venues because, again, not a lot of people want to drive out that far to book their wedding venues. So venues that are outskirts, they typically will cost less than venues that are, within the city. So that's, second thing you want to kind of think about, location. Location is very important when you're planning your wedding. So again, think about it, right? The location that you're using, like I said, a lot of venues are now popping up in the country. You want to ask yourself, what is the closest hotel to that venue? Is the closest hotel like 30 minutes away? If that's the case, then a lot of your guests are going to have to Uber into town. Well, first of all, does Uber get to that location? That's what you need to probably be asking first. Does Uber get to that location? Is the GPS working in that location? Can I get a cell phone signal in that location? Because those are things that, you have to factor in when thinking about the location where you're having your wedding at, right? So it's not just, it's, $3,000 cheaper than what I can find here. But with you saving that money, are you spending a lot more on your limo, for example? Because limo companies will charge you for the distance they have to drive out. Would you have to get rental cars? Would your would your guests have to travel so far out to get to their hotel rooms? If your reception is going to be over at midnight, do you want your guests driving back about 30 minutes to get to their hotel? So those are things, again, you have to take into consideration. If it's not important to you, oh well, that's up to you, right? So you get to make that decision. But I want to let you know that those are some different factors you have to think about when you're thinking about the location where you're having your wedding at. Now, the other thing is capacity, right? So capacity and minimums. I get very surprised when a client tells me that they're planning for 300 guests, and the venue they're looking at has a capacity of 250. Well, where are you gonna fit the remaining 50 guests at? Ideally, your wedding venue should actually, the capacity should be more than what your actual guest count is, because you always want to allow for room. A lot of times, guests don't RSVP. You have guests who did not RSVP but will still show up on your event day. That's one. And then number two, when you think about capacity, right? When a venue gives you a capacity, they're not thinking about you having a 12 by 24 stage or a 24 by 36 stage. They're not thinking about the fact that you have a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 man band that's going to be playing at your event. They're not thinking about the fact that you do need to account for space for a 24 by 24 dance floor, which is about the average size of your dance floor. They're not taking into account that you've got this huge cake, and you need an area, you need a space to have your cake set up at, right? Your DJ needs a space in the room to set up at. You might need to have drink stations in the room that would take up space from the setting up of the room. For the Nigerian weddings, you might need to have a money table or a couple of money tables depending on the guest count that's going to be at your wedding. So those are things that venues are not taking into consideration when they give you the capacity. So don't go in narrow-minded thinking, oh, my guest count is 250 and the capacity is 300, so that is perfect for me. Y'all guests gonna be squished up as sardines, okay? And then in regards to capacity too, you have to think about your floor plan, right? What type of floor plan do you want to have? Do you want a space where it's all round tables? Do you want to have the opportunity to mix in some long tables and some round tables? Do you want to mix in some square tables, some serpentine tables? So you have to think about those different factors, right? Because having a room set up with round tables definitely take up more space, but they're more efficient for your guest count, right? So the space where you put a round table, a typical round table can sit up to 10 guests. If you're having a 6-foot table by itself, a 6-foot table can sit 3, 6, 7, 8 on that table. If you put chairs at the ends of the table, if you're combining the table to make it a long table, almost like an estate table, then you're probably going to have 12, 13, 14. So you have 14 at this long table, whereas on a round table you have 10. But then the question is, the long table definitely will save you space from the round table, but the round table will sit more than what you want to sit. So those are things that you have to kind of think about when you're thinking about the capacity of your room. So depending on how you want your floor plan layout to be, your setup might actually not be efficient for the number of guests or for the capacity that you want at your wedding reception. So with capacity too, you also have to think about your setup. Are you bringing in extra furniture from outside? So is your decorator going to be bringing in some massive glass mirror tables? Are they going to be bringing in lounge seating that's going to take up more space? Are they going to be bringing in, different kind of chairs that's going to take up more space? So maybe if the regular venue table can sit 10 chairs, the chairs your decorator is bringing, is that going to reduce to 8? Which means you're going to need to have more tables in the room. So those are things that you kind of want to think about when you're thinking about capacity or, for the venue, okay? So that's one thing in terms of capacity. The other thing I want to talk about is services and amenities, right? So what services is the venue providing for you? You have some venues that would provide you, you have some, I call it your do-it-yourself venue, right? Do-it-yourself venue. All they provide you is a blank space. It's a blank canvas. You have to bring in your chairs, your tables, your linens, your decor, everything that you're going to need for your event. You have to bring it in. those venues are dirt cheap. I mean, dirt cheap. A lot of those maybe charge you like by the hour, like $100 an hour. So when you think about like a typical your average Nigerian wedding, they book they would like to have their venue for about 12 hours, right? So you're like, oh, $100, $1,200, man, that is cheap. Let me go ahead and get that. Well, what you're not thinking about is how much is it going to cost you? Is that stress even going to be worth it for you? Okay, yes, you're paying $1,200 for a blank canvas. But then by the time you go out and start sourcing and estimating all the vendors that's going to need to fill up the venue, you have to sit down and do your numbers and figure out if it's actually going to make sense for you, right? So now you have to go to a rental company, right, and try to rent chairs and tables. Look, they charge an arm and a leg for delivery, for trucking fees. The service fees are ridiculous and they're astronomical, right? So by the time, if you have a 300 guest counter, you have to rent like 30 tables, 300 chairs. On top of that, you still have to rent your tablecloths, your napkins, your charger plates, your hot boxes, your food warmers, your shafers, your glassware, your dinnerware. I mean, every single item you're going to bring into that room. Basically, you need to sit down and do the math, right? Okay, I'm paying $1,200 for this venue. This is what the rental company is charging me. This is what this company is charging me. Do that math yourself and then add it up at the end of the day. When you add up that number, go ahead and compare it with another venue who's going to be providing you with all of these items, right? And see if it's actually worth the savings, right? Is the stress worth the amount that you're going to save? Are you only going to be saving $300? Are you going to be saving over $1,000? You have to decide what's more important to you, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. And then to not even talk about that, keep in mind that now that increases your setup time. So now you have to make sure that you allow for enough setup time for all of these vendors to deliver. If a vendor is going to come and set up chairs and tables, they're probably going to need a couple of hours to do that. And then guess what? Your decorator can't come in until the rental company finishes setting up the table and chairs. So tables and chairs have to be placed on before your decor company can now come and start putting on the linens. And guess what? Your dinnerware rental company cannot come yet until your decorator is done decorating the table before they can start setting up the silverware, the flatware, the napkins, and all that good stuff on the table. So everyone's time shifts back. Is that worth it to you, right? So again, you have the venue that they're pretty much a blank canvas, right? All they give you is a space. You do whatever you want to do to the space. And then you have the venues that they're kind of sort of a blank canvas, but they give you a little bit more, right? So they give you the venue, they give you the chairs and the tables, and that's pretty much about it. And then you have to bring in everything else. Again, some of those venues are cheaper than others because they already have the chairs and the tables, and all you have to really bring in is your decor company and probably, a rental company that's going to come and provide all the dinnerware for you, right? So keep that in mind. Hey, let me see. I think I missed some people here. Look, I just been talking. Let me see here. Hi, Miss Tasty Bites. Thank you. Everyone who's just joined, thank you. Hey, Bookie. Thank you for joining. You're so sweet. I have a few of my couples on here. I like that they follow me and, just kind of support me. Thank y'all so much for the love. But yeah, so I'm going to be really fast with this video because I got to go pick up the munchkins. But look, the lighting over here is not acting right today. So, all right. I hope y'all can see me though because I feel like I am dark. Let me fluff my hair out real quick. All right, we're good. Back. So we're talking about venues and we're talking about what you need to know before you book your venue. Booking the perfect venue, booking the right venue. So again, when you have a venue that's not providing you a lot, they're providing you maybe just a space or just space with chairs and tables, they're going to be cheaper, but in the real sense, you have to do the math and make sure that it's worth it. And it actually makes a significant price difference. And then you have the venues that are going to provide you with everything. They're, I call them your all-inclusive venues, right? They even have decor in-house. So if you want to do decor, they charge you per person. And what you get per person is basically for your chairs, your tables, your decorations. I mean, I'm talking about like all-inclusive decorations. Again, now, here's the thing. With those kind of venues, they sound great. They sound like they're probably going to be the best bang for your bucks. But if you're big on design and decor like me, your wedding is going to look like the last 30 people who just got married at that venue. Because guess what? They're using the same exact stage. They're using the same exact linens. If your colors are purple and gold and All the other 30 brides who've had a wedding at the venue with purple and gold, guess what? Your wedding is going to look exactly like theirs because they have the same inventory. So they're going to use the same inventory. Now, what I would say is, if you do want to book a venue like that to save on cost, you want to definitely subcontract with another decor company. If you want your wedding to be, if you have the extra budget, I would say that, book that venue, but make sure you also get a decorator that can kind of come in and, zhuzh it up a little bit and put your own touch on it and kind of give it a personal feel, personal look for you, so your wedding doesn't end up looking the same like every other person who's gotten married at that venue. And then you have the venues who don't allow, they provide you food in-house, which means that you have to choose a food from their menu. Now, if you are a cultural client and you need to have Cameroonian food or Indian food or Nigerian food or Mexican food, then that might be a little bit of a challenge for you, right? Because if the caterer they have in house is the special, every venue tells you that their caterer can cook everything. Okay, well, I would let everybody be the judge of that. But any caterer who is not Nigerian cannot cook Nigerian food. I don't care if you grew up in Nigeria. I don't care if you've lived in Nigeria all your life. No dig, no shade, but trust me, you can't cook the authentic Nigerian food. I'm gonna just be honest with you. And that's just me being Nigerian. I'm sure, a Mexican person would tell you that, if you're not Hispanic, you probably can't cook the authentic Hispanic food like Mexicans really can. So a lot of venues would tell you that their in-house chef or caterers can cook whatever food. Look, all they do is find a recipe. Yeah, guaranteed they probably went to school and kind of learned how to cook ethnic food. But at the end of the day, if you do your tasting, what you want to make sure you do is make sure you do that tasting. If you do the tasting and you're satisfied with the quality of the food, the taste of the food, then you're good to go. You can go ahead and book them. Some venues will not allow you to bring in your own caterer. Some venues will allow you to bring in your own caterer. So again, you have to figure out what's important to you. Are you going to be having, 90% Indians at your wedding, which means you must have Indian food, or are you okay with having American food? So that's a decision that you would have to make yourself. All right. So services, right? So I'm talking about services, the different types of venues and what services or amenities they will provide to you. Now, when it comes down to aesthetic part of the venue, right? One thing you want to look out for, restroom is very important, right? So you want to look at the restroom, make sure that there's enough stalls for people. If you're having a 300 guest wedding and there's only 2 stalls, your guests are probably going to have to wait in line for quite a minute. So again, is that important to you or is that not important to you? I have taught some venues where the restroom is right, like literally in the ballroom. What sense does that make? Look, if your restroom, if you're a venue owner and your restroom is like right there in the ballroom, I would need you to please spend a little bit of money and get like some upgrade done and try to separate that. Because again, and to some people, that may not bother them, right? But if I'm taking my client and I find out that your venue, the restroom is right in the ballroom and it's right where we're going to be serving the buffet, yeah, no, that is just not sanitary at all. So those are things you kind of want to ask, you want to look out for. Okay, if you're having a buffet, where's the buffet going to be served? Where's the restrooms are? Where they're located. Is your food going to be placed in front of the restroom? What's the setup going to look like? So check out the restrooms at the venue. Check out if they have a bridal suite. Look, I love making sure my grooms are comfortable too, and I think that the grooms do need to have a groom suite. So a lot of venues, may only have a bridal suite and not have a groom suite, but I think it's important to have a groom suite as well. Number one, for pictures. Number two, just a place for the guys to kind of chill. You don't really want the groom hanging around with the guests as well before the wedding. So, find out and make sure they do have a bridal suite and a groom suite. And yeah, a bridal suite is not just the room where you walk in and it's just chairs and tables in there. Make sure it's glamorous enough. You want to be able to take pictures in that, in the bridal suite. So that's very important because you're not going to have a holding room. Think about, after the ceremony, before you come into the reception, you need to have a place to stay, before your guests, get a chance to see you. I mean, you don't want to walk into the reception after your ceremony and start mingling with guests. You don't want to just kind of hide up in the corner, while the guests are kind of walking by you, or you don't want to go lock yourself up in the bathroom. So, it's nice to have a private area to stay while you're waiting. So a bridal suite really holds on for that. I like this, but it's not important. A holding room is very nice, and a holding room is basically an extra room that can be used for anything you want to use it for. So if you want to maybe have your family members staying there before it's time for the reception, you can have your wedding party staying there, and kind of have the appetizers set up for them in the room. You can actually have your favor, if you're going to be passing out like some favors at the end of the night, you can set that in there. So it's kind of like a holding room, almost like a storage for you to put any items or any personal items you want to lock up in there. You can definitely do that. So again, a holding room is not compulsory, but it's always nice to have that. It's not a do or die, right? So again, at the end of the day, when you're looking for a venue, if you find a venue that fits, that checks all the boxes, congratulations to you. The likelihood of finding a venue that checks all the boxes is very, very slim. You might probably be able to check off 99% of the box. That 1%, you're just going to have to compromise on that 1%, and you're going to have to figure out what the deal breaker would be for you, right? Cocktail area. Oh my God, this is very, very important. When I walk into an event and literally I am inside the reception, unless you're planning on having a sit down cocktail hour, then that's different. But typically after the ceremony, so if you have a ceremony at a separate location, and let's say for example your ceremony is at 2:00, your reception starts at 7. Well, your reception is definitely not gonna take 4 or 5 hours. So what do you want your guests to do within that time frame, right? Now, yes, guaranteed you put 7:00 on your invitation, and guests are probably going to start showing up around 6:30. Well, when they show up around 6:30, where do you want them to stay? You're going to have them stay outside? Because typically if you open the door and your ballroom is right there, where are your guests going to hang out at? Especially if you're having a cocktail hour, where do you want them to hang out at? So you want to make sure that the venue that you're going to book has a lounge area, has a waiting area, has a cocktail area for your guests to kind of hang around and chill before going into the room. Personally, I like to make sure that my couples get a chance to do a room review, which is where, they've paid so much money for their decor. They've, dreamt about this vision ever since. And and it's that one chance, because everything goes by so fast, and it's that one chance to see, oh my God, this is where I spent $20,000 worth of decor on. Look, I am going to embrace this for like 10-15 minutes, so I always like to make sure my guests, my couples get a chance to do that. So make sure that the venue has a lounge area for your guests to kind of hang around. Again, like I said, unless you're having a sit down cocktail hour, and even if you are, just keep in mind that there's going to be a chance that you as a couple would not get to see the room before the guest gets in, because once the guests walk in and they enter, that's it. There's no surprise element factor for you anymore. It doesn't feel the same. Like, you can't walk into an empty ballroom and be like, wow, like that literally is the expression on my couple's faces when they walk into their ballroom. But you wouldn't have that once your guests are seated in there. So hey, hi Isaiah Sprigil. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Oh, hey, you are in Brazil. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining in. And I see a couple other people join. Hi, Miss Sandy. Hi, Tola. How are you? Hi, Miss Textile Trader. Hey, Makeup by Morty. How are you? Hey. Everybody else who joined. Hey. Thank you so much for the support. So I am here. So I think I mentioned earlier today that I am going to be going live every Thursdays between 4:30 and 5. I'll pre-announce and let everybody know what time I'm going to be jumping on. But I am officially going to be doing a TOJ Wedding Therapy Thursday. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing going forward every week, hopefully every week. So y'all try to keep me in sync. So my goal is to educate. I know, you got to pay for a lot of education out there, but I just feel like it's a disservice to the industry when couples are not educated enough. Don't complain when a couple doesn't understand why you charge what you charge, or why your contract is the way it is. when they're not educated. So that's my goal, to try to educate as many as I can. And y'all, I'm sorry, but the lighting today keeps hitting, bouncing me up and down, but I can't even really see myself. I am so sorry. I'm gonna find a better location next time, but I think it's the sun. So anyway, so back to finding the right venue, which is what we're discussing today. Things that you need to look out for before you book your venue. So we just talked about, the cocktail area. Another important thing you want to look out for is kitchen area, right? So does your venue have a kitchen, especially if you're bringing in an outside caterer? They love to make sure that, there's a space for them to set up. If you're doing a plated dinner, the caterer wants to make sure that there is there are tables and there are spaces for them to actually set up. I mean, for example, if you're going to be plating 300 plates, there's got to be enough area for them to move around, so those are things you kind of want to think about. Are you doing a buffet? Are you doing a plated dinner? If you're doing a buffet, is the buffet going to be set up in the room, or do they have a space outside the room to set a buffet up? I am absolutely not a fan of setting up buffet or bar inside the room, because it just causes a lot of commotion. It takes away from the intimacy of the event that's going on. I mean, here you are, doing your first dance on a dance floor, and you get people shouting, "Give me some NSC and Coke. I want NSC and Coke." No. Let's not have your guests do that. Or you have your guests by the buffet line talking about let me put some more rice, put some more mix. Okay, give me the ayamase and the red beans. And your guest is all in the room, and so it just causes a lot of commotion. It looks very, very tacky, very tacky. So always make sure that there's an area outside the space to set up your buffet and set up your bar. You don't want to set that up inside the hall. It's just not the right feel, trust me. So make sure that the venue has a nice kitchen area. You also want to kind of make sure that aesthetically, the venue has like nice areas for you to do pictures at. I mean, it's very important, for you to be able to kind of get some nice pictures from the venue as well. Those are just kind of some things that you want to think about when you're booking a venue, and kind of look how to make sure the venue does have that. All right, so now going into what else am I going to talk about? So outside vendors, right? So you want to make sure that the venue, allows you to bring your own vendor. So for example, a lot of venues, okay. So this might, some venue owners might get a little bit upset at me, but it's okay. It's education, and you take it or leave it, right? So when you as a bride go up to a venue, a lot of times some venues will have like a preferred vendor list, right? So what is a preferred vendor list? A preferred vendor list is a list they give to you and say, oh, here are all the vendors that we've worked with before. It's helpful to the clients, because it helps you prevent you from doing a lot of research, or maybe feeling like you don't need to hire a planner, because here they're giving you all this list. It's got all the vendors you need: photographer, videographer, caterer, decorator, and all of that good stuff. Well, here's a secret that you may not know. So just because that vendor is a preferred vendor for the venue does not mean that they are the perfect vendor for you. Okay, so let that sink a little bit. Again, just because they're the perfect preferred vendor for, got bad connection. Sorry, I got bad connection, but I'm back. So just because they're a perfect vendor for that venue doesn't mean that they're the perfect vendor for you. So you want to make sure that you vet that vendor. And another secret is a lot of those vendors on the preferred vendor list actually pay to be on the preferred vendor list. Now, I mean, yeah, I guess everyone is in business to be profitable, so I'm not even going to knock anybody off. But my thought process is, if I'm paying, a venue should refer me because I'm providing good services to their client, not because they're taking the money that I'm paying to them monthly, to promote, to help promote me. I mean, it works on both sides, right? But you have to just make sure that vendor is right for you. So if you do want to go with a preferred venue's recommendation, that is perfectly fine, but just make sure that they're the perfect and they're the right vendor for you. Now, some other venues will not let you bring in your own vendor, so you have to make sure you clarify that right from the get-go, that, okay, I see that you have a preferred vendor list. Do I have to book all of my vendors from this list, or can I bring in my own vendor? So if that's a deal breaker to you, then that's probably another kind of venue that you want want to book your event at, because you're probably going to run into a lot of issues with, helping them understand your vision and making sure that they can carry out, what you're expecting of them. So again, this is a choice that you would have to decide on whether or not it's important to you or not. Okay. So ambience, so the ambience of the room. So I think that kind of goes back to the overall style that you want to do. So if your theme is if you're having like a winter wonderland wedding, for instance, you could probably turn any venue into a winter wonderland venue, right? So again, you would probably have to pay for decor, right? Versus if you find a space that's all white, it's got chandeliers in there, that's probably the perfect venue for that kind of theme. I talked about a rustic wedding earlier on. You probably want to find something that has a lot of wood finishes to it. A barn, the lighting has to be different. They can't have like the bright, glistening, modern chandelier. So those are things that you kind of have to think about when you're looking at the ambience of the space. If you're having a very classic wedding, do you want to go book art, like an arts district venue that's, it's got like graffiti over it, So those are things that you kind of have to think about, the ambience of the location of the venue whenever you're booking the wedding. Also, you want to think about the outskirts. So I have some couples who tell me, Jewel, look, don't find me a venue that's right next to a gas station, okay? I don't want it. I don't care how much it is. Don't find me a venue that's in a shopping parking lot. I don't want it, So these venues might be amazingly gorgeous on the inside, but I have clients who are very particular about the surroundings of the location. So they don't want their guests driving and thinking they're going to shop, whereas they're coming to a venue. And I have some clients who they're like, look, I don't care, I don't care what my guests think, the inside is going to be decked out, the inside is gorgeous, and that's all that matters. So again, you have to decide. There is no right or wrong venue option. You just have to decide at the end of the day, what's a deal breaker for you? What's a perfect fit for you, for your budget, for your style, for your vision? You're the only one that can make that decision yourself. There are a lot of warehouses that are dirt cheap. The outside of it might not be the most beautiful surrounding, but you can transform that interior. I mean, you pay less than $5,000 to rent the warehouse, and you turn it upside down, and you make it the look that you want to make it. So again, you have to decide what are your priorities, right? What's most important to you when you're booking that venue. Insurance. A lot of venues do require that your vendors have insurance. Some venues also require that you obtain insurance for your guests as well. So make sure you find that out. It's going to cost you money, especially if you're booking vendors. If you're booking vendors that don't have insurance, a lot of times they pass that amount to you. So if a venue requires that your photographer has insurance and your photographer doesn't have insurance, guess what? For your wedding, they're going to have to go secure insurance for that day, which is going to cost them about $500 to $1,000 depending on what kind of insurance they have to get. Now they got to pass that charge over to you, because guess what? They're not making that money off of what they're charging you. Somebody's got to pay for the money. So whether they pass it on to you as the client or y'all go in half and half on it, but expect to pay a little bit more. If your venue is asking you to book vendors who have insurance, and that's the reason why vendor pricings are different. That's why you have a photographer whose packages might be in the $6,000, $7,000, $9,000 range. They probably are fully insured and licensed, and you might have a photographer whose pricing is in the $2,000, $3,000 range. Their prices is that low because they don't have to pay for insurance. So those are things that you have to kind of think about when you're interviewing your vendors and you're having that consultation with them. If your venue requires that your vendors have insurance, you want to make sure that you clarify that and make sure that they do have that. And then for your guests, some venues do require that you obtain guest insurance as well. So depending on the amount of guests you have, that's going to determine on how much you're going to pay for insurance on your guests. And then if you're bringing in an outside caterer, most venues will require a $1 million to $3 million liability for your caterers. But guess what? Some venues require up to $5 million. I would say that 60 to 70% of caterers carry only $1 million liability, which is probably the least expensive option for them. The ones that will carry a $3 million liability probably have a they have a private restaurant, they have a kitchen, a commercial kitchen, so they probably need to have higher on that. And then you might have some caterers who carry a $5 million liability, but guess what? If the caterer you're looking to book only has $1 million liability insurance and the venue is requiring that they have a $5 million liability insurance, that caterer is going to have to up their policy for your event, and it's going to cost them some amount of money. And guess what? They're going to pass that right back to you as the client. So those are things that you probably didn't think about putting in your budget when you were doing your overall wedding budgeting. But these are things that, when you hire a planner or a good planner, they would help you, they'll literally break down all this information to you. And when I do the budgeting for my client, I always do a percentage of their overall budget. I always add a contingency amount to that overall package, right? So if your budget is $50,000, I like to do a 10% contingency, which means that my contingency could be any kind of fee. So for example, if we got to pay for this caterer to up a policy and that's going to cost $600, well, guess what? That's coming out of that contingency because we did not initially budget it with your overall budget. So, again, kind of keep that in mind. When you do your budgeting, you kind of want to have a threshold. You want to have that wiggle room just in case any unexpected, costs do come into play. So that's the other thing, accessibility. So you may have, handicapped guests at your event. A lot of people don't really think about that, but you want to make sure that your venue is handicap accessible. You might have like elderly folks who may not be able to climb the stairs. Do they have a ramp at the location? So think about, accessibility for your clients. Also the convenience for your vendors. Yeah, I have worked at some venues that are not vendor friendly at all. And when I say not vendor friendly, I'm talking about literally the docking area is a good 10-15 minutes walk from the ballroom, which means that when they pull their truck over, they got to offload all of those items onto whatever they're offloading it to, and they still have to drag all those items about 10-15 minutes before they get into the ballroom. Whereas some venues are very easy with setting up. The vendors pull right into the dock and they're bam right in the ballroom, right, or right in the kitchen. Your vendors want to know what's the docking procedure. Am I gonna have to park my truck and still have to walk and carry 300 chairs for 15 minutes to get them set up in the ballroom? If that's what's gonna happen, guess what? I'm gonna have to upcharge your labor. So think about that. When you check out your venues, find out what their docking, docking accessibility is. You want to make sure that it's convenient for your vendors, because if it's not convenient for your vendors, then you're probably going to be paying a little bit more money on the labor side of things to make sure that your vendors can get in and on time. So those are things that average people don't really think about. Accessibility. Cost flexibility. So you want to find out, is that venue very flexible with their costs, right? Can you negotiate with them? If they tell you this is what they charge, ask them, do you guys have a peak season? A lot in the wedding industry, January through March is the downtime season, and then the peak season is going to be from April through, sorry about that, I got a call. But yeah, so your peak season is going to be from April through the summer, basically through the summer, and then it's going to kind of die down again October, November is kind of when the off season is going to be. But then in December, guess what? The prices go back up because it's in the holidays, and that's a lot of a lot of people don't know. Ask your venue, is there an upcharge for me to have my wedding on the day after Christmas, the day after Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve? There are a lot of times venues and vendors will have an upcharge for you having a holiday wedding, so kind of keep that in mind as well. So cost flexibility, are they negotiable? Is your venue location, is it a charity non-profit venue where they don't negotiate because all of their proceeds goes towards charity? Is it a hotel where they can negotiate the food and beverage minimum for you? Is it a venue that can knock off a couple of thousands or hundreds of dollars for you? Is it cheaper to have a Friday wedding versus a Saturday wedding, or a Sunday wedding versus a Saturday wedding? So A lot of people don't know, but having your wedding from Sunday through Thursday is actually cheaper than having it on Friday and Saturday. So those are things that you kind of want to ask the venue about their cost flexibility. What's their payment plan option, right? If you're paying a deposit right now, do you have to do several installments? Is your, balance due, right before the wedding? Can you pay ahead of time? What's going to happen if you cancel if you cancel, God forbid, you have an emergency and you have to cancel the wedding? Is your deposit refundable? Is it transferable, meaning that if you choose to move your wedding to another day, would they refund that money back to you and transfer it to your new day if they're available? Or would they just not refund you back, right? How long after you've booked can they refund your deposit back to you? Venues do have a policy where, maybe if you cancel within 30 days, it's fully refundable. If you cancel up to this amount of time, they will refund a certain percentage back to you. And then at some point in time, you don't get any refund at all. So you want to make sure you have all of that, have that information, so you kind of have it in mind, for your financial purposes or your budgeting. So those are the things that you kind of want to ask the venue. If you're having an outdoor wedding, if you're having a venue in a location that does allow you to have an outdoor ceremony, ask them, what's your backup for weather? If there's bad weather, what is your backup for a rainy day? Do you have a space inside where we can move in to have the ceremony, or do I have to bring in a tent? Now, if the backup plan is that I would have to bring in a tent, then that goes again towards a contingency, because that's something that you did not budget for, that you're now going to have to spend money on. You want to ask a venue, are you able to flip a room? Flipping a room means that, let's say, for example, you were supposed to have your ceremony outside, but the contingency plan is that if it rains, we're going to have the ceremony inside, and then right after the ceremony, we're going to have to quickly flip the room and set it right back up for your reception. Well, you want to ask them, are they going to charge you for that? Because some venues will charge you to flip the room, to do a diagram change, because a lot of venues, once they set up the chairs and tables, that's it. If they have to change it, there's going to be an additional charge for that. So you want to kind of find that out. You want to find out, what's the closest hotel to your location. You want to make sure that you get a venue that, the hotel is not so far out. Ideally, I would like to have the hotel about 10-15 minutes away, but we know that the way cities grow, sometimes it's maybe not possible, especially if you're having your wedding outskirt of the city. The closest hotel might be 20-30 minutes away from you. You want to make sure that that is okay with you. So far, I think this is kind of all. That's all I have on my notes as to questions to have, before you book a venue. Again, you want to decide, do you want to have an outdoor event, right? Are you looking for an outdoor venue? Are you looking for, a hotel venue, right, where it's convenient, right? So if you're doing your ceremony and your reception at a hotel, guess what? All you got to do is go up and down the elevator, the most convenient event ever. But not everybody likes having a hotel or ballroom, wedding reception or ceremony. So think about that. How far is your church, the ceremony location? How far is that to your reception, right? And then, do you want to have a hall? Are you having an event hall? Are you having a conference center, a convention center, an outdoor wedding, a hotel? Those are kind of like different types of venue location, a warehouse, those are just some things that I can kind of think of the top of my head. But again, today's conversation was just kind of talking about, finding the perfect venue and things you need to know before you book your venue, questions you need to ask before you booking your venue. So I hope that, for any couple out there that's in the process of finding a venue, I hope that this has informed you a little bit, and I hope that you can go out there and ask the right questions, and, hopefully you're able to find the perfect venue for you. Keep in mind that, again, the average couple, I want to say, this is my statistics, y'all, okay, statistics from Jewel, but I want to believe that only about 10% of couples are able to find 100%, check off 100%, perfect venue, right? So meaning that only about 10% of couples can say, yes, we checked off all the boxes and it was a yes, 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 yes all through, and we found the perfect venue. The other 90%, it's not always so. So you're going to have to figure out and find out what you want to compromise on, right? What do you want to compromise on? There's got to be something that you want to compromise on. Do you want to, is it okay that the venue doesn't have a groom suite? but it has a bridal suite, you know, is it okay that the venue doesn't allow outside catering because you're okay with American food? You know, so things like that you kind of want to sit and ask yourself. When you're looking for a venue, make a list of what's most important to you, and then categorize that list, right? You know, on a 1 to 3 scale. So maybe you made a list of 10 different things, right? You know, categorize what all the ones are. So basically, whatever you number 1, those are a must for that venue. And then categorize what you number as 2, which means, okay, you know, it's not a deal breaker. If they have it, great. If they don't have it, that's fine as well. So, you know, that would kind of help you, you know, as you start to look out for a venue. And then number 3 would be what you don't care for at all. But if they have it, hey, double plus, right? So again, thank y'all so much for joining in. I will be back next Thursday. I would announce what time I'm coming on live, but I am so excited next Thursday because I am bringing one of my favorite vendors, the hotel sales and catering director for one of my favorite hotels where I typically have my weddings. They're going to join me live next week to talk about what to expect when you know, booking a hotel, or, you know, just kind of talk about questions that people might have as they, you know, book their venue, and, you know, what are food and beverage minimums, you know, what are some things to look at, what can you negotiate for. Basically, y'all get the inside scoop from my own personal vendors. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be sharing with you guys over time. And thank you once again for joining. Cootie, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. And let me go back one more time and just thank everybody who joined me. Y'all, it's a lot of people. I can't really say everybody's name, but y'all really know that I appreciate you guys joining in. And if you have any questions, if you are a bride or groom in the process of booking a venue right now and you have any questions, please feel free to DM me, send me an email, and then on live next week we'll also be answering questions. So any questions you have about booking a venue, or if you have a contract right now and you know you have some questions regarding the contract and you want to ask, you know, we'll definitely answer your questions next week. So thank y'all so much again. Don't be shy. Send me whatever questions you have. I won't call you out, but we would definitely love to answer your questions. Again, it's been great. I gotta go pick up my munchkins, but I'll see you guys next week, and I'll let y'all know what time I'm going to be joining in. Thank you so much, Makeup by Stella. I appreciate it. Thank you. Y'all have a wonderful evening and take care. Bye bye.